When Kalene Nisly tells people she's a birth photographer, she tends to be met with fairly extreme reactions. Either she's living the dream, or they can't imagine getting to do what she does. Or is it, you're kidding me, right? Who would want that documented? The reality is probably somewhere between the extremes. She gets invited into people's most sacred spaces, and she never wants to be cavalier about that, but also she loses a lot of sleep and sometimes gets pooped on.
My name is Kalene, and I'm the owner of Blue Muse Photography. A few months ago, Patsy asked me to talk to you tonight about birth photography, and it is such an honor to do so, remembering the way she appreciated my work. When I tell people I'm a birth photographer, I generally get one of two reactions. Either their eyes light up and they tell me about how amazing of a job they think I have, or about their sister's cousin's friend's birth that was photographed. Or I get that look. And the inevitable, you take pictures of what? Personally, I think I have the coolest job in the world. But if you had told me 12 years ago, when I was in photography school, that this would be where the field would take me, I probably would have laughed. Birth photography wasn't on my radar until I was pregnant with my now almost 4-year-old daughter. Somehow in all of the Googling that happens with first-time moms in the modern era, I stumbled upon the annual International Association of Professional Birth Photographers contest, and I wept at how beautiful it all was. I wasn't exactly nervous about giving birth, but when I'm processing anything new in my life, I go deeply into myself. I loved the photos I had come across, but I wasn't very sure about navigating something so monumental and so brand new while someone documented it. In the end, I decided to go for it and invited a friend who was also a photographer to come. And then I was hooked. Giving birth to Emerson absolutely changed every part of my life. For the first time, I learned how strong and capable my body was. I learned that I can do hard things. And I learned what it was like to watch my heart come out of my body in a gush of water and blood. I knew I needed to see something that sacred happen again and again. I knew that I wanted to tell those stories. And so I asked a friend who was due soon if I could come and witness her birth. The rest, as they say, is history. Just kidding. Birth photography as a field was still in infant stages nationally, and we live in Kansas. I didn't know anyone else who called themselves a birth photographer. No problem, I said. There's just some work to be done. And so I set out to convince my clients that I had something to offer, that I could tell their stories well, holding their comfort in high regard, honoring them and the process first, getting the shot second. Slowly but surely, I started to get busy, and that meant adjusting to an aspect of birth that I hadn't spent a lot of time considering, on-call life. Leaving my people, sometimes on holidays or birthdays, finding childcare that could be ready in an instant, keeping my bag packed and gas in the car always. This was consuming work, but always worth it. When people tell me they want to be a birth photographer, and they do, a lot, I usually just smile. A million moments rush through my mind, a million feelings. There is so much life-changing joy in getting to witness the incredible strength of the women I work with. But there is also pain. There is fear. There is bone-deep weariness. There are 3 a.m. showers shaking on the floor from all of the adrenaline my body hasn't processed yet, bearing the weight of all I have seen, all I have heard. There is the way that the world stops while the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 count goes on for what feels like hours while you wait for the first cry. When I closed my eyes late last night and listened to the midwife, as she weaved prayers between surges, and the mother growled her baby down, I didn't pretend to understand the divine. But there's a place in me that believes something at the core level of ourselves changes when we are honest about what we long for. When we hope, even without expectation. Or maybe, especially when we hope, without expectation. Blood is the sign of life, but when the blood doesn't stop coming, the midwife asks again, this time for life more than relief. This time with abandon in her voice, as a baby whimpers, lips pink. There are moments when we can remember to breathe, or we can bear witness. But we cannot do both.
You had to